Okay, so when you hear the name Mary Read, what do you picture? Probably a swashbuckling pirate, right? One of those very rare women who took charge on the high seas. But what if I told you that whole epic story is basically a tangled mess of myth, fact, and some really clever fiction? So today, let's unravel the legend and see if we can find the real Mary Read.
Yeah, this is the image that basically launched the entire legend. Armed, ready for a fight, she looks like the poster child for a pirate captain. This engraving from 1724 has pretty much defined how we see her for centuries, this powerful symbol of a woman just living life completely on her own terms. But this is just the beginning of the story.
And the thing is, this image, it's not just some fantasy. We have first-hand accounts from her trial that paint this really vivid picture. An eyewitness, a woman named Dorothy Thomas, testified that Reed and her fellow pirate Anne Bonny were armed, they were dressed like men, and they were just as vicious and foul-mouthed as any of the male crew, maybe even more so. I mean, her life story reads like some wild adventure novel. A soldier in the British military, an innkeeper over in the Netherlands, and then a pirate in the Caribbean. It's an absolutely epic tale, which of course leads us to the big question: how much of it can we actually prove is true?
Okay, so to get to the truth, we have to put on our historical detective hats, right? We need to trace this incredible story all the way back to its source. And what we find there, well, it kind of changes everything. And get this, her entire epic life story, from her childhood to her time in the army, all of it, comes from just one single place. The whole legend is resting on a surprisingly fragile foundation. And this is it. A book called A General History of the Pirates, published back in 1724 by this mysterious figure we only know as Captain Charles Johnson. This book is the wellspring for almost every pirate legend we know and love: Blackbeard, Calico Jack, and, yep, Mary Read and Anne Bonny. But here's the catch. While the book has some factual bits, historians pretty much agree it's greatly unreliable. The author, who a lot of people think was actually Daniel Defoe, the guy who wrote Robinson Crusoe, wasn't just reporting history. He was selling thrilling adventure stories, mixing in just enough fact to make the fiction believable. And Mary Read's story? Oh, that was one of his blockbusters. All right, so if we push Johnson's dramatic book to the side for a minute, what are we left with? What do the actual verifiable historical records, the court documents, the official proclamations, what do they really tell us about the real Mary Read? Well, when we do that, what do we find? The answer is shockingly little. We have no idea when or where she was born. Her own trial transcript, which should be a key primary source, doesn't say a thing about her age or where she came from. Her entire verifiable history is squeezed into an incredibly short window of time. Just take a look at this timeline of what we can actually prove. On August 22nd, 1720, she hooks up with Calico Jack Rackham's crew. In less than 2 weeks, she's already infamous enough that the governor issues a warrant for her arrest. And then, boom. By October 22nd, it's all over, her career is done, she's captured. It's a remarkably fast rise and fall. That's it. Let that sink in. Mary Read's entire documented career as a pirate, from the moment she started to the moment she was caught, lasted just 61 days. 2 months. That is the verifiable reality behind the centuries-old legend. And check this out. This is one of the only real pieces of hard evidence we have. It's the official proclamation from Governor Woodes Rogers demanding the crew's arrest. And you can see their names right there: Anne Fulford, alias Bonny, and Mary Read. This single piece of paper proves she was real and she was a wanted woman, but it tells us absolutely nothing about that epic life story we all think we know.
So after her trial, both Read and Anne Bonny did something pretty clever. They pled the belly, basically claiming they were pregnant to dodge the hangman's noose. And it worked, at least for a while. But it didn't save her. She ended up dying of a fever in a Jamaican prison just a few months later, in April 1721. And that is the end of the verifiable story of Mary Read.
So if the real verifiable story is that short, where in the world did this grand adventure come from? Well, for that, we have to go right back to Captain Johnson's book and take a look at the myth he built from just those few scraps of fact. According to Johnson's wild tale, Mary's whole life of disguise starts pretty much at birth. He spins this yarn about her being passed off as her dead older brother, all to trick their rich grandmother into paying an inheritance. So this whole story of deception and cross-dressing from day one really sets the stage for the rest of her legendary life. And the story just gets crazier from there. Supposedly, she joins the army, serves with valor, falls in love with a fellow soldier, reveals she's a woman, they get married, and then they quit to open an inn. It's got everything: action, romance, tragedy because, of course, her husband dies, setting her adrift again. It's a fantastic story, for which there is zero historical evidence. So what we've got is this ghost of a real person and this incredibly powerful myth that was built around her. And what's really fascinating is watching how that myth has morphed and changed over the last 300 years.
You know, for the longest time, Mary Read was totally the star of the show. Her backstory as a soldier and a widow really clicked with 19th century Victorian audiences, and she was way more popular than Anne Bonny. But fast forward to the 21st century, and the tables have completely turned. Now it's all about Anne Bonny in modern books, games, and TV.
Now, you might have heard modern takes that explore a romantic relationship between Read and Bonny, and it's really important to know where that idea comes from. It actually originates from sources that came out way, way after they died, starting with a bootleg and even less reliable version of Johnson's book. The official trial records say nothing about their personal lives. But despite all this, the legend is more alive than ever. I mean, from huge video games like Assassin's Creed to hit TV shows like Black Sails and Our Flag Means Death, this character, built on that one shaky book from 1724, is still capturing our imaginations today. So, in the end, who was the real Mary Read? We'll probably never know for sure. We've got 61 days of solid fact and 300 years of a really, really good story. Everything beyond those 2 months is, for all we know, fiction, which leaves us with a fascinating question, right? Does a story actually have to be true to be powerful?